What is up, YouTube? This is Kevin Kelley coming back at you somewhat live from Nexus Nootropics. Would love to discuss a very exciting smart drug and nootropic today with you all that is known as Aniracetam. This is a very creative smart drug, so let's get to it. So, as you can see, I kind of chose a very specific place to record this video, namely because playing piano is one of the metrics that I've actually noticed a difference with Aniracetam. I didn't expect anything from it, however, the results were very apparent. The first day I took it, I was able to not only complete a song I'd had writer's block on for a month that same day within an hour, but also able to write new songs. It just had a fantastic creative flow, which is wonderful if you are interested in working on business projects or music yourself, or anything really. So the purpose of this video is to kind of give you my anecdotal review of Aniracetam, as well as talk about the data, where we are today, and where I think we could be in the future with this smart drug. So my experience, as I kind of already told you, was pretty profound in the sense that I did have a very, it's kind of like a creativity catalyst is what I would call Aniracetam for me. Remember, I am not a medical doctor, a health practitioner, or anything like that. I'm simply a research analyst, a professional research analyst, who wants to help people basically know what they're putting in their body, and at least in some small way help with that, or spread awareness about substances that are not well known but could help people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So I did have really good effects in terms of anxiety suppression, fatigue. It has mild stimulating properties, and also, of course, creativity. The only thing that touches creativity like Aniracetam is Coliracetam, which is a much newer analog. I did one video on that. You can check that out on my page. But the beautiful thing about Aniracetam, at least anecdotally, is that it has effects on AMPA, and it's also GABAergic in terms of inhibiting the GABA-A system. I think. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I'm not a neuroscientist, just an analyst. And it also has the ability in the periphery of all that to increase your serotonin and dopamine, which is pretty interesting. It's kind of a whammy in terms of one pill, if you look at it that way. So other drugs, and I mean prescription drugs that have effects like this, could be looked at like calcium channel blockers or something like that, or something that affects the calcium channel, like valproate, or an anti-epileptic or a mood stabilizer. They reduce the firings of neurons in your brain, which, you know, would reduce seizures and things like that, and help with your inhibition. Aniracetam kind of does that without severe side effects, which is pretty fascinating to me, and I think worthy of research. Speaking of research, what we know now, even having this compound around for 40 plus years or so, is that all of the testing has been done on test animals specifically, and there's a serious lack of human clinical trials. Part of that is because it's difficult to look at live brain tissue from a person, whereas, you know, you can do that pretty easily with a mouse. But even so, I think that there should be more clinical trials, even just to test the effects, side effects, things like that, to get a better grasp of what the drug is, what it does, what it can do, what are the limitations, and could it really help people without severe side effects, like some other drugs. The reason I talk kind of in a slight bias about calcium channel blockers or anything like that is I took Topamax, which is a mood stabilizer and supposedly a prophylactic for migraines. I have chronic intractable migraine, And this was one of the drugs in the arsenal that they gave me. And I think that it's very dangerous to do something like that. I had a horrible reaction to it. Pretty much every side effect you could look at from the book, and it's changed the way that I look at prescription medications. That's, you know, one of the reasons I research everything medication-wise I put into my body, because your body is a very sensitive thing, and it doesn't take much to really screw with it. So anyway, all of that aside, Aniracetam, you know, has the effects on NMDA, the AMPA system, choline, acetylcholine, things like that. What's interesting about acetylcholine is it actually increases it, or increases acetylcholine, but it doesn't actually affect the cells in your hippocampus. All of the effects that come from Aniracetam are thought to originate in the prefrontal cortex and kind of resemble that, you know, action with AMPA, or come from the mechanism of AMPA, where serotonin is increased, dopamine is increased, and your GABA system functions a little better. Basically, it's more regulated, which is, you know, if you have anxiety or problems like that, that's probably, you know, that's going to help in at least some small way. It may not be extremely noticeable, but in theory, that's what these drugs are supposed to do. So, yeah, it's been around for a while. I think that it has a lot of potential, and we should look into these smart drugs like Aniracetam further, because there are so many drugs out on the market today that this kind of gets suppressed, whether it's policy or public opinion, or people just don't understand. More research needs to be done on these substances for sure, because there are a lot of people that could be helped by them, maybe without as many severe side effects as other drugs. It's kind of my whole point. I want to help people here with this channel. It's kind of my whole point. I say that a lot too, I guess. I want to help people to make informed decisions about what they're putting in their body, and also maybe help people attack issues they might be dealing with, whether it's fatigue, anxiety, comorbid depression, nutritional issues, blah, blah, blah. The list is open. And I always accept comments and things like that. Like, if you guys have any questions, let me know. But I think that this is a very interesting substance. So, with that in mind, I usually test them for, like, at least bare minimum 2 weeks, with cycles if needed or whatever. But the important thing with Aniracetam is that it's fat soluble. Most dosage ranges go from 750 milligrams up to 3,000 milligrams. Some push the limit a little bit on that. I don't recommend it, especially if you're a first timer trying to see if you can boost your memory, creativity, reduce anxiety, use the mild stimulating effects, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. Just, it pays to do your research and figure out what it actually is before you try it, right? You could be a gamer. You could be like, man, if I take Aniracetam, then I'm going to win the CSGO Invitational against Jesus or against Gavin. I don't know. But anyway, it's very interesting. You could also be an entrepreneur or someone like that. So, as you can tell, I'm kind of a scatterbrained individual at times. I attempted to write notes to use during these videos. I always end up freestyling, much like I do with the piano. I like improvisation. Yeah, so we will go through some of these notes, though, to make sure I didn't miss anything. The other names for Aniracetam include Droganon, Sarpol, Ampmet, which is like AMPA, I guess, is maybe where they're going with that, Mimodrin, and Referon. These all sound like raid bosses in World of Warcraft names. Whoever was naming Aniracetam was probably simultaneously playing World of Warcraft or Diablo or something. Just my opinion. So yeah, increases serotonin and dopamine peripherally via the cholinergic mechanism in the prefrontal cortex. Ugh, having difficulty. Let's see. It's known as kind of the puzzle piece in the situation of racetams or smart drugs. It helps you tie the knot or connect the dots between something so you can create the whole picture. some people get better effects than others, and most use it for anxiety suppression. However, I think it's great for creativity and writing. You might find that it works better for you in a different way. It's potentially more potent than Piracetam. This says it is definitely more potent than Piracetam. That's my anecdotal report. I feel that it is much more powerful in the sense that the effects are different. I just get a different effect from Piracetam than I do from Aniracetam, and I would love to. I'll cover Piracetam at a later date. It's unregulated in the United States. It's prescription only in most European countries, which is interesting. And it wouldn't surprise me if that happened in the U.S. Or if it was banned or something like that. The reason I say that, and I think it's important to mention, is that I think, as a futurist entrepreneur, blah, 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 that people, when they don't understand something, there is more of a chance that they will scrutinize it. Even if that something is good. If policy suppression or people go against it, outspoken individuals, there's a very high likelihood that it could face scrutiny in terms of becoming, a more utilized substance or more research, that's more researched and things like that. People tend to do that. They tend to scrutinize the unknown until they know it, and even then there's scrutiny sometimes. So it's just interesting. I think it's important to spread awareness about smart drugs and what we know and what they could be, because if we're not careful, they could go away, and they could have different effects than we ever thought, and more research needs to be done to potentially avoid side effects in the future, things like that. That's my whole point. So yeah, made in the 70s, one of the first racetam derivatives or analogs. Creativity, anxiety reduction, comorbid depression, things like that. It's great. For most people, everybody's different. But the human clinical trials are lacking from my perspective. If I was to give a star system for this drug, for this nootropic, I would give it a 3 out of 5, strictly because there's not enough research. And that kind of goes with any nootropic that doesn't have enough research. I would give it a 3 out of 5 or below, even if the anecdotal reports are fantastic. Even if you're playing World of Warcraft or you're playing piano like Beethoven after you take it or something, or you're like amazingly better, it needs more research. Every substance needs more research if it's going to be consumed by human beings. That's my point. Yeah. Oh, last thing. They did have some benefits in terms of the clinical trials with animals on things like Alzheimer's with mice, I think, or maybe it was monkeys in that case, but also with fetal alcohol syndrome. It was beneficial and neuroprotective in both of those cases where memory deficits and toxicity came into play, which is pretty cool. So another avenue that could, maybe see some human testing in the future, I think. But yeah, it's a very unique racetam. It helps me write, helps me play piano, knock things out with my entrepreneurial projects. Etc. And I think that if you're a person looking to tackle a specific issue or just want to up your game, it may be something to check out. This is Kevin Kelley with Nexus Nootropics. Please hit that like and subscribe button below, and also feel free to leave me any feedback or comments about Aniracetam or suggestions for future videos. I do appreciate it. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.